Alright, so this Knife Thoughts video is going to be an unboxing, and if you are familiar with Knives Ship Free or with traditional knives or GEC, which if you're watching this, you might be, then you'll probably know what I might be unboxing here by where this is coming from. Bone Distributing is Knives Ship Free, and just recently they had an unexpected, or at least somewhat unexpected, release of a Northwoods knife. So Northwoods is a brand owned by Knives Ship Free that's been around for a while, but since Knives Ship Free has had it, it's become really, really popular, and they have recently been made by Gradish and Cutlery. Now, Gradish and Cutlery had said that they weren't doing SFOs, which it was never really like that they weren't doing any special factory orders. It was more, I think, that they just wanted to stop doing so many where every dealer was getting an SFO. Particularly the number 14 run that they did a little while back there were too many SFOs. So, but with that said, there weren't any Northwoods releases for a while. I think over a year, maybe about a year. The interesting thing was when GEC released the production totals, and I'll start opening this. I'm going to use this knife, my Gradish and Cutlery number 47 Viper that I've been carrying. When Gradish and Cutlery released their 2020 production totals, and I don't want to cut through the baggie that this comes in, but when they released those production totals, they put on it a knife for Knives Ship Free. There is a little sticker from them that, hadn't come out, called the Lookout Jack on the 23 frame. So kind of as soon as people saw that, they knew, well, they must have done a Northwoods knife on the 23 frame when they did a run of 23s in 2020. But then they immediately, I think minutes or hours later, took it off of the production totals. So it obviously wasn't supposed to be on there, but the kind of cat was out of the bag, and it was assumed that at some point Knives Ship Free was going to release a Northwoods knife on the 23 frame. It took a while. I don't exactly know what the deal was with that. I didn't ask or anything like that, but finally here last week, it was announced, actually this week. So these were released on Wednesday of this week, which would have been the 3rd of November 2021, and this is the 6th, the Saturday, so 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, yeah, of November 2021. So it got to me in basically 2 days. As always, fast shipping from Knives Ship Free, which I appreciate. The drop, as always, was, a lot of people were trying to get them. I didn't have any trouble getting this first one. I did honestly go back to get one of the wood models. So they had this one, which is in blue camel bone, but they also had one in wood that I was hoping to get, but didn't get a chance to, and I certainly am not complaining, being that I got this one. But a lot of people had trouble getting them. I usually am able to get knives from Knives Ship Free when they're released. I have the email set up and everything. But anyway, this knife was one that I thought was probably going to be released, but took a while to come out. So my dog decided to scratch himself there. So sorry about the jingling. But I'm excited to check this out. It comes in a nice leather slip. As you can see, this is bigger than other Northwood slips I've received and feels very sturdy. But let's just take a look at the knife here. So I'll open it up. And I actually purposefully picked this one because the grain of the bone and the die job looked really cool to me, and it doesn't really disappoint. That is a cool looking die job. You can see the veins, or whatever you want to call it, in the bone where the blue has taken in deeper. And I gotta stop it here. All right, so my dog was eating something and I wasn't sure what it was, so I wanted to make sure that it was all right. Turned out it was a treat. Don't know why it was on the floor, but seems like it's all right. Anyway, I purposefully picked this one, and it is pretty cool looking. Nice light blue on most of it, but with darker areas in the veins. So I think it looks pretty cool here. Let's take a look. Interesting note here is that the edges have a really dark blue. You can see that there. That's interesting and not something that I would expect. It's kind of very unusual, but I don't have an issue with it. Have a little bit of that back here too. Looking at the spring, it looks like there are no gaps. The tip sits a little bit high for me, for sure. You can see how that's pretty close to the edge there. In fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and call that a proud tip. Yeah, you can see how that's right there. So, you know, I don't like, if you watch the channel, you know I don't like proud tips. And certainly this is a knife, I had planned to use it. So if I do use it, I will drop that kick a little bit. So speaking of the kick, let's take a look at it. So you can see this has a nail nick. It does have the Northwoods stamped on the flat there, but pretty strong pull. I'd say maybe a 7. Yeah, something like a 7, but pretty smooth also, to be honest. And there's the kick, as I was mentioning. Now, Northwoods knives just have the USA on the tang, so no year or anything like that. You can see it still has some of that finish from, you know, the heat treating and everything process there, which gives it kind of a unique look like other Northwoods knives. And then a saber grind rather than a full flat grind like most GEC made knives. A little bit of drawn swedging on the top there, and keeps that thickness most of the way down towards the tip, which is one of the aesthetic kind of hallmarks of Northwoods knives, is they're a little bit more burly or sturdy, you know, a lot of the time. Now, the tip does look pretty thick to me. It doesn't look like it comes to a relatively, it does not look like it comes to a relatively thin tip. And I'm going to take a pretty close look here, but the edge looks like barely an edge at the tip, if I'm going to be honest. That looks like a very, 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 very thick edge towards the tip, and the grind is kind of strange looking. Yeah, you can see that on camera there. So this area right here, I don't know even what that is. It's, you know, they do use CNC to grind these. As far as I know, I believe that they use CNC on the blade, and that's why you can actually almost see those lines, those vertical lines there. So I don't know why, but it does look like there is some kind of almost like a convex type grind towards the tip. Yeah, you see that there, right there. So not the best grind that I've seen on a Gradations cutlery knife, to be honest. Now, Gradations cutlery knives typically don't come with a great edge, to be, again, completely honest. The edge for a user, for me, I can't think of a single time that I've gotten a Gradations cutlery knife and didn't feel that if I was going to use the knife, it needed it to be re-apexed to get a thinner and more even secondary bevel or edge. So not a surprise that it's not great towards the tip there, but it is, I think, even worse than normal. Another thing I notice here is if you look right in here, a little bit of almost like chipping on this camel bone. So yeah, a little bit of chipping there. Hopefully, let me see how close I can get this, get it to focus. You can see that it looks like it has been polished after the chipping. So actually, I would kind of call that the same thing there, a little bit of chipping. But I think that was maybe even before the dyeing process, because you can see that it's a little darker there. So kind of strange, not the most perfect, you know, covers or fitting I've seen on a GEC knife. Not the worst either, but these Northwoods knives generally are a little bit more expensive than their GEC counterparts. This camel bone, I think, is a more expensive material than bovine or cattle bone, but these were not too bad. I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised by the price. They were $150. That's an expensive knife, you know, even for someone who's a big collector of, you know, this type of knife. It's expensive for me, but it's not as expensive as I thought. I thought they'd be closer to, honestly, like 200. I thought they'd be in the 175 to 200 range, but still, it's an expensive knife for it to have, you know, some of those issues. Let's take a look at the fitment or the fitting of the shield here. Man, my dog is really searching around this place. I don't know why. It's pretty good. Oh, well, there's some areas right there. So GEC, that's another thing that they don't get perfect all the time, is the shield, which is not a huge deal. I mean, I actually don't even care a lot of times if a knife has a shield. But when it does, sometimes there will be some gaps that they fill in with epoxy or something like that. This one isn't too bad. You can see some slight areas there, but not too bad. I don't see any cracks in the bone. You know, I gotta say down here, man, I have to say, this area here is almost unpolished. Not almost, it is unpolished. It's almost like it got hit by a grinder when it shouldn't have here. I want to try to see how well I can show that. So you see that? It's rough still there. And I don't think it's supposed to be. I mean, actually, there's a little bit of it over here too. But that's not something that I usually see on a GEC or a Northwoods, is that roughness. It's almost, look, it goes all the way up to here. Huh. Wow, this is unusual. Not what I was expecting this unboxing to be like. The more I look at it, those small things that aren't a huge deal certainly aren't of a practical or utilitarian nature, but I would say the proud tip is somewhat practical or utilitarian. But these things like the chipping and the unpolished areas here, just not what I've come to expect from GEC or Northwoods. So honestly, I'm surprised by it. Don't know what to think of it. I'll be interested. I'm going to post on the GECC Facebook group and see if other people think that those are unusual or not. I mean, certainly I've seen a lot of GEC and Northwoods knives, and I do think that it's unusual. There's usually some light scratching on the bolsters and shields, but there's a little bit deeper scratch. That's not a big deal, but this stuff, I do want to see what people think of it. And the blade too, that blade thing's, that one again, you know, somewhat practical. It's gonna take some work to get that to a good edge. I hope I have some paper here. We'll try this. I don't even know if this would cut right now with how thick it is. No, it definitely won't. I mean, it's not biting it at all. Let me do the fingernail thing. So, as a what do they call that? A control. Here's what this knife looks like. So that's what should happen. And I actually just sharpened this today, but it should bite in like that. Let's see what happens here. And obviously I haven't done this yet, so I don't know, maybe it will, but I mean, not at all. There's not really much of an edge there. Try it down here. Might be a little bit better. I'm expecting it. Yeah, it catches here. It looks and feels better down here. But up here, there's really not much of an edge. And so that's going to take time to fix. You know, if you were going to carry and use this knife to fix that, it'll take time because it is so thick. So I think that's a material defect, or not a material in the sense of a defect in the material, but an actual defect, you know, something that is not something that I think should necessarily be overlooked. So, man, I hate to do an unboxing that isn't completely positive. I really do. It's not what I was expecting. I was really looking forward to getting this knife. So I'm interested to see. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Am I being ridiculous? Are these things not worth worrying about? Or, you know, are these things that on a $150 knife from the company known for making the absolute best traditional knives on the market right now, are these things that shouldn't be on this knife? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Certainly, I'm going to post about it on the GECC Facebook group. So if you're not in that, go ahead, check it out. I'll put a link in the description. But make sure you answer the membership questions. We don't approve people if they don't answer those questions. So, and hopefully we can get a discussion going around this. Depending on how that goes, I'll probably contact GEC and or Northwoods and see see if they can do anything. But not what I expected this to be like. Again, I was really looking forward to it. Not a terrible knife, obviously, but not what I was expecting. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I enjoyed getting to see the knife. So hopefully I can do a follow-up video on this with what comes of it all. But if you have enjoyed the video, or if you just like this type of video and want to see more like it, maybe a more positive unboxing in the future, definitely subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you know when I post new videos. Also, you can give the video a thumbs up, and like I already mentioned, you can comment below. Also, check out my social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Knife Thoughts, and my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife-related topics. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.